Welcome to Season 3 of the Moving On Podcast. I'm Jay Norman, and this is my wife.
Hi, I'm Jess Norman.
Babe, did you really think anybody would hang around to listen to a third season?
What is a really good word for the opposite of yes?
My thoughts exactly. And thank y'all for hanging around.
We sure appreciate it.
And on to the show. Hi, babe.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. We made it back on close on time today.
No, babe. We're like 2 weeks late.
Oh, okay.
You didn't know?
I don't know. You've done so many podcasts, I can't keep up.
I've done 2 today.
Yeah, that's right. You're busy.
2 really important ones.
That's right.
This one was so important that Satan worked for the past hour to stop the audio from working.
We're a little late getting started tonight, but that's okay. It'll still be good.
Yep.
Not worried about it.
For sure.
So, babe, farming-wise, we've stalled now 4 weeks, so we're close to planting, hoping that'll get dry and we can get started here probably in the next 5 days and probably take us a good 10 days run on the corn. And we like fertilizing the wheat and still messing with cattle and kind of doing all that good kind of fun stuff. And still got our 2 bottle calves.
Right.
And so we're hoping the weather will clear and we can get that done. And
we're ready.
On to the next season.
We feel ready.
Sure.
We took a little trip. Said when we are about to spend a lot of time apart, we try to spend a lot of time together real quick. So we did that this past weekend.
We made a unplanned, unscheduled, nothing set in stone road trip.
Which direction do you want to go today?
That's right. And we just went.
Yep. We had the best time.
And made about 3 stops and drove about, I don't know, probably 700-800 miles and had a good time.
I love Texas. I didn't start exploring it till you and I were together, and I love it.
Good. That is a lot of fun.
Can I tell him who's here?
Well, first.
What?
We didn't say anything about the kids.
Oh, how are your kids doing? How are your 19 children doing?
My kids are good. We finished basketball, so we're done with that. We've got 1 in baseball and 1 in track. 1
going back into basketball.
And so we're whittling it down a little bit.
Speaking of basketball, I have a funny story.
Okay, tell me.
Okay. When I was in college, some of you guys know I played ball in college at East Texas Baptist University. I had this really wonderful coach. But one time he got really frustrated with us as a team. And he told us to get our tails off of the court. He was sick of looking at us, and that he was going to set the scoreboard for 25 minutes, that we needed to go to the locker room, gather ourselves, find new attitudes, and he would be waiting at half court for us to come back. So we get to the locker room, start throwing our clothes, shoes. We're so frustrated. We're women. We're emotional. We're young. 18, 19, 20. And we proceed to get in the largest argument our team has ever gotten in within just us girls. And we go through the whole fight. We make up. We put our shoes back on. We talk to each other about how this is going to be the best practice we've ever had because we got real with each other and now we're ready. And we put our shoes back on and we go back out to the court and all the lights are off. Someone looks at their watch. It's been 45 minutes. He thinks that we just were so pissed at him we never came back.
He thought the whole team quit.
And we loved him. He's one of my favorite human beings on the planet. You've known that the whole time we've been together.
That's a fact.
And he's going to tell you his story, but he is here tonight with his beautiful, well, she's my new best friend, but he is married to her. And we are so, so honored to have them with us.
And who is them?
And them is Coach. That's his name. Coach Landers. He doesn't go by any other names.
That's all I've been told I can call you, but go ahead.
And beautiful Miss America, Kenya Landers are here with us tonight.
You bet. Guys, welcome and great to have y'all tonight, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. And my name is Michael.
No, it's not. No one call him
I may
that.
just call you Coach Michael for the rest of the night. I've got to get coaching there somewhere. I'm getting elbowed every time.
Yeah, I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay. No one cleared that with me.
So y'all tell us about yourselves tonight and about your family and your kids. And
all right. So Kenny and I live in Corsicana. which is just south of Dallas. We have two beautiful daughters, Michaela and Larkin. Michaela is 11, turns 11 next week. And Larkin is 8.
And Larkin is Michael and Michaela is me.
Right.
Exactly. To a T.
Michaela is named Michael with an A. And she is attached to Kenya. Larkin is named after Kenya, which Larkin was her maiden name.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and Larkin is attached to me. So somehow we named them, and then they went with the other one.
Switched them.
That's amazing.
Kenya works at Corsicana High School and has about 7 jobs. She's the assistant principal, and she's the girls athletic coordinator, and she's the district's Title IX coordinator. And then I'm the athletic director at Navarro.
And the catch-all. He catches all the things at Navarro.
Yeah.
He takes it all.
Do you think, just on a side note, Coach, do you think that you can get me a pass to a cheer practice?
Yes, you need to come to spring break. That's why I was asking you about what y'all are doing for spring break.
Will Netflix want to highlight my visit to the practice?
They're here right now.
They're here filming.
I'm obsessed with them. I'm obsessed.
Yes, I might be all over season 2 or 3. I don't know. Every time I see a camera, I run by it.
Oh, what?
It doesn't sound like you. And the first time my coach, goes by no other names, ended up on Cheer Netflix, I was standing on our bed screaming, yelling for my kids to come see.
She really was.
Oh, I just love him so darn much. And then he was on the #1 show on Netflix, and it was just the best.
That's awesome.
Yep.
So we're going to get to a lot of basketball tonight, and y'all are both basketball players and basketball coaches, but I thought it was unique. You said that neither one of the girls have any interest in basketball.
Well, that's not necessarily true. We're holding out hope. There is a
fingers crossed.
Come on.
There's a basketball goal in our backyard. We have a basketball in our garage and one in our house, and so we just kind of every once in a while kick it out in the middle of the room so they might see it.
Yeah, like, what's this? Hey, what's this thing?
Yeah.
Hide the soccer balls and the baseballs and just leave basketball sitting everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they play soccer and softball, but they're not basketball players yet. But there's still hope.
I will say they both played one season in Mildred, Little Dribblers, just right up the road from them. And they both did really well.
Yeah. Like,
really, really well. So I'm just figuring they're going to pick it up in junior high.
I think so, because I thought Michaela was ball handling as a baby, wasn't she?
She was, yeah. And, she played, so we don't have, little dribblers. We just have the YMCA here in Corsicana.
Yeah.
So we went to Mildred and played, and she had some games, not bragging, but to where it was like, okay, let her cross half court, don't take it. It was like,
right,
I was there,
Oh, yeah.
And she played up an age group. And our youngest one, Larkin, said it is just her coach yelled too much and it was too stressful. She cannot have it.
Sure.
Exactly stressful.
I know.
I can't imagine a coach that would yell too much.
I know, and I'm trying to rack my brain if I've ever had someone that was stressful, but I can't think of him right now.
Sure. So Jess, you go to ETBU as basically a 17-year-old.
I was a 17-year-old.
And that's where y'all's story starts.
Yes, he became my dad. We called him Dad. You can call him Dad if you want to.
Okay, Dad, Coach, or Coach
Dad
Michael,
or Coach.
Just not Michael.
No. I don't know who Mike is. That is very uncomfortable. My parents and I walked into the office and he said, I am so sorry. We've had a couple of deaths on our team. One of our players, both of her grandmothers passed away. And that would be my first husband's grandparents. I played ball with my sister-in-law. And so my children that you've seen walking around, that would have been their great grandmothers in the first conversation that I had with this man. So it was just all so intertwined and special. And He's important to me.
He for sure is. I have definitely heard your name since I've met her all the way through. So y'all tell us more about yourself and how you met, and kind of start your story.
Well, we met in the good old world of basketball. I was playing professional basketball overseas, and I got an email from this guy. He says, okay, so when I was leaving Trinity Valley in 2000, getting ready to go, because I played there, everyone likes to joke and say I played for him. I did not play for him. I was leaving Trinity Valley in 2000, getting ready to go to the University of Texas, and I was coming to say goodbye to my coach, and he was on his way in for his interview. He, of course, remembers me. I don't remember that. Just kidding, babe. I don't really remember that, but
remembers me.
Yeah. So I played overseas for a couple years, and then I got an email from him asking if I was ready to start coaching. And I was. I knew that I wanted to be a coach. I thought that that's what I would do for the rest of my life. And so what better place to start my career than at my alma mater. So I went back and I was his assistant coach for 9 months. Very, very, very difficult 9 months. He wasn't the nicest person to work for, but once I left and went to Oklahoma State, we became friends because I would still come back and recruit his players. And I would bounce ideas off of him about work, and then he would bounce ideas off of me about work. And so we just, became really good friends. And we were in Boston at the Final Four. We went to the Final Four every year. I think, what was your position on the WBCA board?
I was on the board.
He was on the WBCA board with Gino and we got great seats at the Final Four.
Right.
So we were in Boston, and he said, "Do you want to go out on a date?" And I was like, "Okay." So we went to Fenway Park. That was our first date. We went to Fenway Park, and we sat there, and we got to look at the old school stadium and scoreboard and all that good stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and we just bounced around Boston. We did cheers, and we just had the best time. And so it was really fun. And now we always wear all these Boston caps. Well, we go on vacation, and you're in the pool. You got to have a cap on because it's 1,000,000 degrees, and people always ask us, "Are y'all from Boston?" And we're like, "No," but so it's like a fun story to tell.
I love that. I have a favorite pastor. His name's Bob Goff. Have you ever heard of him, Kenya?
No.
I'm going to send you some of his stuff. He'll be your new favorite, like me and Bob Goff. And his neat story that you're reminding me of is he had in one of his books, Everybody Always, he and his wife bond with their neighbor. She becomes part of their family. And she passed away from cancer. She was a huge Boston Red Sox fan. Aww. Before she passed away, he told her he would make a deal with her. He would wear a Boston. He didn't know the Red Sox, didn't go to games. There was no, just like you're saying, there's no ties. But he told her he would wear that hat every day for the rest of his life if, when Jesus passed by her every time in heaven, she would mention him. And so, so when you told that story, I was like, gosh, y'all would love hearing him tell his story. So every time you see him preaching, he has a Boston hat on. Really? And it's for it's not any ties, it's for his neighbor.
That is so very cool. That's cool. So we've been married 11 years. It'll be 12 in May, 13 in May. I can't keep up. 13
wow.
years.
11, 13, it's all the same.
No, 13-year-old sometimes. I can't believe I've been married that long.
Well, and to be forgiving, the entire last year just seems like it took about 5 seconds. So I don't think that should count at all. It's just such a blur.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we've been married 13 years. We've lived in 3 states, and we've lived here for, it'll be 7 years this summer.
Mm-hmm.
That's the longest we've ever lived anywhere.
Yeah.
And we consider Corsicana our home.
That's nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so we're not too far apart, right?
No, about probably 2 hours.
2 hours.
2.5 hours.
And you
like that, I
guys
would guess.
have family that lives about 40 minutes from us.
Yeah, it's really quite ridiculous that we have not seen.
I know. We've tried. We've tried, though.
We have.
Really, you've not invited me once, Jess.
Well, Kenya and I talk a whole lot.
We have to try.
Every time I text Coach, it's really just videos of the girls, and then I think we're going to have a nice chat, but then he just starts talking about how much better my girls are than I ever was. And so then I just go get dinner or something. I just put my phone down and go get dinner.
Just stop and go on to another subject.
But they really are. Like, he never let me touch the ball. I could only touch the ball if I was going to catch it, turn, and shoot. Now these girls, even if they're 6 foot tall, they're expected to handle the ball like a point guard. Mm-hmm. And so as a coach, I'm supposed to show them how to do that. And I'm like, I wasn't allowed to touch the ball. So I don't know what you want me to do with that.
Yeah, I think I have a different memory, but that's just.
Go ahead, Jay. What was your next question?
Cut him off at the pass.
Yes. Babe, if he does that again, you know what?
I'll be ready. I'll have my next question.
Okay.
So Coach, y'all are together and you meet, and obviously like all other couples, you have your ups and downs. I know y'all described working together and the things you went through, and I know that like all of us, you had ups and downs in life, and I know you had some severe trauma and things that really I think came to a head at some point there in your life when y'all first got together. Mm-hmm. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that, and that'll kind of start the story and the spiritual part of it, and as we move forward from there.
Okay, so I will do my best. It's interesting. All of Jess's memories of me are positive, and to be honest, I look back now, and at that point in my life, like, I wasn't a good person. It's like I didn't have a good heart. I was worried about materialistic things and self-glory, and I didn't care about other people. And I had I lost my father when I was 18 in a hunting accident. And it was me and my dad and my uncle, and we had an accident that morning. My dad ended up getting shot in the chest, and he died in my lap in the back of the truck as we were driving to the hospital. And I literally internalized that and didn't speak about it until I was, 34, 35 years old. And when I met Kenya, I still don't think I was a very good person. And I'm not saying I'm a good person now, but
you are a good person. He's a good person.
But my outlook changed, and Kenya was one of the people that helped me open up about some things, and I was able to face some of that and accept some of it and begin talking about it for the first time ever. A lot of it is because of her and her support and helping me get through it. And it changed my perspective on life. And I still have a long ways to go, and I'm still materialistic, and I worry about myself too much, but I feel like I've learned how to love others. And I feel like I've learned how to live for other people. I will say, Jess and I laugh and we joke about it, and like the teams I had at East Texas Baptist and the teams I coached at Trinity Valley, like those girls, young women. They're now old women, but
I'm going to
I
punch him.
love them to death. And I can't believe that anybody played for me more than a week or two, because I was so very, very difficult. I wish I could go back and do some things differently, and just let them know more on a daily basis how much I appreciated them and that sort of thing, because my perspective has changed. And that's because of that. I think that's one of the things that's helped our marriage grow, because there's no way she would have married me if I hadn't turned the corner with myself internally.
Do you remember the big fight?
Which one?
So we had a golf tournament when I was working at Oklahoma State, and we were leaving the golf tournament, and we had a knockdown, drag-out fight. And he was visiting me there, and I remember he had like a box of just a bunch of his childhood things in my apartment in Stillwater. And we got back to my apartment, and I said, I am not doing this with you. I don't know why I gave him the box, but I guess that was my
We're dramatic. We're really dramatic. We are theatrical.
Take your box. I remember I said, you have got to get this figured out. You've got to deal with some things, because we're only going to be able to get to a certain point until,
Yeah.
And I had to deal with things too. I'm not saying like I'm better than him or anything, but I'm just saying like that was an instance of where I think it was pivotal for him, because when he left that day, it was a very long time until we talked, until he wrote the letter.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny, did you know at that time about what had happened to him when he was young and what he was dealing with?
Mm-hmm. I found that out in Boston. So I didn't, and I just remember him having this conversation, and he just laid in my lap, and we had this conversation. He told me, and I was totally there for him. I mean, I think I thought even then, so highly of him, and I just knew there was just some barriers that you had to get through, just as he had to get through on my end. But, he says he's so very difficult, and he wished that he could go back and do things differently. You don't even know how many of his former players, probably every week. Like, we just had one that played for him that is getting married and found out she was pregnant, and she texted us in a group message, and we were like the second or third person she told that she was having a baby, so he's had a big effect on a lot of young ladies. And yes, he was difficult. But there was a method to the madness, I think. He's a good one.
So, Coach, when you're going through all this and you're kind of struggling internally and you meet Kenya, is that when things really, when you got to get down and kind of dig deep and figure all this out? Is that what set you on the path? We talk a lot about mental health and counseling on here, and we have counselors, and I know at some point that you went down that road, and I guess if you would tell us about that.
You know what, and I'm not saying this to brag, because it's not anything worthy of that, but I can honestly say that I remember this was Christmas of 1989, and I remember, leaving the hospital, and I got home, drove back to my house, and I got undressed and in my room, and as I got undressed, I had blood all over me that I didn't realize it had soaked through my clothes, and I just completely broke down on my bed, fell to the floor, cried for I don't know how long. And then that was probably the last time I cried until I was 35 years old. And because that's how I internalized it. And I got to a point where I didn't have feelings. I had feelings, but I didn't express any of them.
Right.
And I will say that once I'm 35 years old and I start going to see a counselor and start working through some of it. And had some nights where I sat at my house because, obviously Ken is living in Oklahoma and I'm in Texas. And, a lot of nights where I would be going through some stuff as I'm trying to deal with it. And, I would break down and cry. And now I'm getting old. I'm in my 40s and I've got 2 young daughters. And I will sit there and I now will cry watching something on TV. And so,
cry baby.
And so it's helped me to understand that it's okay to feel things and that you don't have to always put up a front. It's like sometimes I literally laugh at myself going like, why are you crying right now? But it helped me to get much more in tune with like how I really feel and like what life's supposed to be like.
Right.
Yeah.
I know Jess has mentioned a lot in our life about getting to a point in her 30s where she kind of figured things out and things kind of came to a head for her. And I know you mentioned last night that you finally felt like once you went to counseling and started feeling again, you finally felt like an adult. And I think that's a lot of us go through that at some point in our life.
Switch flips.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So y'all are both in basketball, and at this point you're together, you get married, and you move into different coaching roles and have a lot of success. Things are rolling like you want them. Things kind of come derailed for y'all. And I guess it's another piece of trauma that y'all have now gone through together. And I guess tell us that story and kind of how it affected y'all and affected your marriage.
Mm-hmm. Well, for a long time, I think for a long time for both of us, we were basketball coaches, like honestly and truthfully, I thought I was just going to coach forever. I never really saw myself sacrificing enough time away from work to have a legitimate, real relationship. Like work, recruiting, coaching did it for me until, I met Michael and, then he did it for me. But, you go through life and you kind of let people put like a title on you, you kind of let people categorize you. And immediately when we got married, everyone just would call us the power couple. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. Just like the power couple, the power couple. Oh my gosh, y'all are just.
I still call them that.
And so there, and I'm just now like, really, this is coming to me. You do sometimes things that you shouldn't do to live up to that. We coached together. We won a national championship together in 2012. And that was like one of the most amazing things that I would have not wanted, like I wouldn't wanted to do that with anybody else. Like that was just, it's still one of my most amazing moments of my life. And so we leave there, we get an offer to go to a college in Mississippi and coach together. Well, you can't take shortcuts. That was going to take up that program that we went to was very, very damaged and it needed a lot of work. And, our staff decided to take some shortcuts instead of, just waiting patiently for players to come along. We wanted to help people come along probably too quickly than they could have on their own. Not necessarily really honestly and truthfully in like a facetious or, just trying to help kids that were our kids for 2.5 years, our staff was fired at Ole Miss. And I'll tell you that part of our life and part of our marriage was probably the darkest thing I've ever gone through as an individual. And I know it's the toughest thing we've ever gone through as a couple.
Right.
It was very, very difficult because, we went from making 6 figures, a lot of money, living in this huge house and having everything we could want or need to draw on unemployment. Mm-hmm. And so as someone who took pride in, or people that took pride in the job that we did and our names, and, it was just a very difficult, humiliating time for us.
Right.
And Michael and I went through some very difficult times. We blamed each other. It took us a long time to get through that together. We tried to get through that as individuals for a really, really long time. And it was bad. It just, like, our marriage was in a bad place. We were just simply coexisting, and both of us were just trying to survive. Like, there was nothing that I could really, I had nothing to give him to help him, nor did I really want to at that time. And I think he probably felt, the same way. And so,
you're both hurting.
We were both hurting. We were both just humiliated, embarrassed, like I said, and it was just something so difficult that we went through. But I will tell you, individually, we both continued to seek God. Because we were on our knees. I mean, we were broken, like
desperate,
begging for something, anything, And I think through our individual, neither one of us turned our back on God or got mad at him or said, why did you let this happen to me? We were both very well aware that we were responsible or partly responsible for the things that we were going through. But we just were so worried that we got in this jam and that, God maybe had forgotten about us. And he would continually just drop different little things. Like, just when I was feeling my worst, I got an opportunity to get back into coaching at a high school. And then he got the job at, God just continued even before the big things, but he would just drop little nuggets and just remind us that he hadn't forgotten about us.
I love that.
Yeah. And again, these were individual things that were going on because we were not connected in a way that we were even probably really sharing that with each other.
Yeah,
I know. Oh, sorry, Bud.
Bud. Okay.
I think 4 of us spoke at the same time.
Go ahead, Coach.
I was talking to Jay.
Oh, I thought you were calling me Bud, Jess.
I thought he said Mike just now, and I about got him.
I was going to say, if you called me Bud, I was going to tell you to get on the baseline. But anyway.
Do you realize we're now 40 and 49? Does that rock your socks? I don't like that.
I've been old for a while. I've been old.
I know, but we shouldn't be in our 40s together. You should be like 65 at this point.
Okay.
You were 49 when I came to school. Remember?
I'm going to pass on that.
I was just going to ask, Coach, when you've been to counseling and where you struggling at, where does this, y'all losing your jobs there at Ole Miss, where does that fall in that picture, in that time frame, and where you are with all that?
You know what? It's extremely embarrassing as a man, because as a man, as a husband, at that point, we have 2 young daughters, both under the age of 3. I mean, one's basically a newborn.
She was just born in Mississippi.
Yeah. And so, your job as a man is to provide and take care of your family. And that's what I was going to say a second ago is it's interesting. I often say that, God has a great sense of humor. I think God uses your own stuff against you, and not in a bad way. It's just like sometimes we think we're smarter than God. And we had reached the point where Kenny and I had decided these are our goals and this is what we're supposed to accomplish and this is where we're supposed to be going. And we put our focus on what we thought was right. And me personally, I can't speak for Kenya, but I was chasing money. And we went to Ole Miss with the opportunity because that was a step up, and we literally got, $100,000 raise together to go there. And, we're looking at 2 years down the line, that's going to double we're going to double our salaries in 2 years. And, 5 years from that, we're going to be making $1 million a year. And like, that was our focus. And so that's why we took shortcuts. And it's embarrassing to me as a coach because, I mean, you can attest to this. Literally one of the hallmarks of my coaching philosophy was there's no shortcuts. A shortcut is the longest way to get something, because it's eventually going to come back and get you. But I didn't listen to that. I didn't listen to my own advice. And so you go from chasing money and God says, well, hold on, wait a minute. You're not quite as smart as you think. And you're not in control. You're not in charge. And we go from thinking we're making all this money to don't have a job. I'm having to ask my father-in-law if I can move in and we can, as a family, as me and my wife and my 3-year-old daughter and my 6-month-old daughter, can we live upstairs in their house? And that's really, really hard to take as a man, as a husband, as a provider. And,
and having to ask family for money. I mean, we were broke.
Yeah. I have a sister that lives in Prosper, and her and my brother-in-law, Todd, that's my best friend. And my sister that's my person.
Right.
If they don't help us out financially, we don't make it. I don't know what we do at that point, Right. And I will say Kenny was 100% right. Neither one of us gave up on God at that point. Neither one of us, I think we both accepted responsibility. And I think we both said, God, you know what, we've screwed this up. The thing that's disappointing for me is we didn't do it as a couple. We did it as individuals. But we didn't do it as a couple because I think of how we were struggling. And we were struggling with one another as humans. But then I remember to this day, I'm selling scoreboards, and I say that laughingly because I didn't sell very many of them, but I was working for a company that sold scoreboards. I just happened to be an employee, but
I bet you had a good attitude the whole time you were
not
trying.
Really, yes, not really at all. No.
Keep going. I bet you did.
But so Kenya God has such a funny way of working. She applies for one job, goes to interviews. She thinks she's going to get it. She doesn't get that job. But one of the people she interviewed with knows another person, which led to her getting a different job a week later.
About that.
All right. And so she gets a job at Richland High School in North Richland Hills. And I don't know if she's going to remember this. I interviewed at Navarro. This is August, late July, early August of 2013. She is moving things into her office at her new school. And I am out acting like I'm selling scoreboards, and I drop by her office to see, what her new gym looks like. And it's literally her second day at the school. And while I am in there, I see her office, see the gym, I turn around and leave. And as I'm driving off, I get a phone call from Navarro saying, you know what, because I'd interviewed the week before, I get a phone call saying, you are our person. We'd like for you to be our new head basketball coach.
Oh my gosh.
And so I think God broke us down and said, hey, you need to refocus yourselves. And if you'll do that, then I will turn around and I will open doors for you. And in the midst of 1 week, and it wasn't a week, but the final steps happened within 1 week. He opened 2 doors for us.
Oh my gosh.
Point.
Oh my gosh.
So you
have a sister, huh?
Yeah.
Where does she teach?
Birdville, that North Richland Hills right there.
Yeah.
Right now.
Really?
Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I want to go back to when Coach and I interrupted each other. We were pretty much wanting to say the same thing. And to me, going through this process, this is our therapy. Our podcast is our therapy. We fully believe we probably wouldn't be married without our podcast because it's forced us to kind of talk about these issues every single week and get real with each other, and the communication. You know how important communication is in a marriage. And so the older I'm getting, I'm realizing that there's kind of 2 types of people. One, when they go through struggles, they blame God for allowing them to go through struggles. And the other camp, which I think the 4 of us are in, I want to say, is we look inward and say, why didn't we look to you? And I know when we were talking to them last night, Kenya mentioned that they hadn't gone to the Lord with this decision about going to the school, which God can use it all. Essentially, God used it to mend all of it. And it's a beautiful, beautiful story. But we've gotten there just like every other marriage. We've gotten there and we'll feel ourselves pulling away where we are going back to making the decisions with our intelligence and with our experience and with our strength. Like we're strong and we deserve this and we deserve to, up and away. And God's like, hello, like what? And Kenya, you have such a neat story about the job that you had during that time and meeting your person. I love that story.
Yeah. I was working at Luke's Locker in Fort Worth, and that in itself was just a very humbling experience. I have a master's degree and I'm hanging bras up, like that's not, that was tough. But I'm working one weekend and these two people come in, and they are seriously and truly like some of our best friends. Like they're people. They come into Luke's Locker and I said, well, where are you? You're supposed to make small talk with the customers. So I said,
right.
Where are you guys from? What are y'all doing? And they said, we're from Corsicana. And I said, you are kidding. My husband just got the head men's basketball job.
Oh,
like, really? We know Johnny, we know the former coach and yada, 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 and talking. And they, Jason, Ellen's husband, does a Bible study at his house every Thursday morning. And he said, well, if your husband can ever make Bible study, just have him come on over. And, of course, he was driving back and forth. So we're at kindergarten boot camp, before you start school. And this lady is staring at me. And I said, Michael, do you know who this lady is? Like, am I supposed to know her? Like, you've been here for a couple of years. Do you know who this lady is? And he's like, I don't know, And so then it's fast forward to the first week of school. And we are, every Friday, every parent goes to have lunch with their kids. It's like standing room, like SRO.
Oh, okay.
So I go have lunch with Michaela, and we're sitting at tables, and I see her, and we're both kind of like, and then we look at her and we go, Luke's Locker. And we're like, I was wondering, and this was 2 years later. This
right. That's incredible.
God just does all things well. Our kids ended up in class together. And if I had to pick, Ellen Sod is she's amazing. And I'm just so thankful that she's in my life. And, I really and truly feel that Corsicana is such home for us because of the way that it started for us. And Jason and Ellen totally just took us in and just made us family. And, we're so blessed to have them. And, just something silly like that. God just gives you two best friends this late in life to just, be with and cover you. And, people that are strong followers of the Lord and that pray for you, and that will pray for you at any moment that you need it. Just doesn't,
right. I always wonder if that was because things like that happen to us too, where we don't immediately come dear friends, but then later, like me and you, Kenya, how we're best friends now.
Right.
We weren't for years. And so I just feel like God's going, hello, like I sent you to each other. And I think of those 2 years that's where our human free will comes through, is he sent her to you. He did. He did. He sent a life raft, and it just you just missed, one of you missed it. And I love stuff like that. And so he sent her back in.
Yeah,
that's so fun.
Like my lifeline, like just maybe Monday or Friday. I can't remember at this point, but I texted her and I said, hey, I'm at the end of my rope. I need you to pray for me. And she said, I will gladly. And she sent me the most amazing prayer. And immediately I just kind of felt it all for me. She's amazing.
Side note, that Bible study that they mentioned while she was at Luke's Locker, they invited me into their group, and Well, we meet every Thursday, and I've been in that Bible study for the last 6 years now.
Yeah.
No.
Only because they happened to, but they didn't happen to. Only because God sent them in that day. It's.
He's so charming. He's so charming. I love that stuff. That's so cool.
So to tie a couple of things together, y'all both strike me as people that have always been successful at what you've done. You've obviously climbed to the top in basketball, both of you probably as players and as coaches. And so you kind of get to the top and then things go to the bottom for you. And when you're at the bottom, how did that change you, Coach, as a person? And then how did it change your marriage?
I think as a person, I feel like it's helped me to be a better coach, administrator, in that I've dealt with people, I've dealt with players when I was a coach, I've dealt with assistant coaches, other, coaches. I'm an athletic director now, so I deal with a huge staff that I think I'm much more compassionate in terms of someone's needs. And I've had over the past 10 years, numerous opportunities where I should have fired someone and didn't because I've been fired and I know what that feels like. And it was miserable for me and I don't want somebody else to go through that. I really struggle with this as a person. There are 2 or 3 individuals that have crossed my path over time that I don't like. That's terrible to say, but I feel like they did terrible things to me. And the human side of me wants revenge and wants bad things to happen to them. But I think because of where God put me and because of my trust and faith in God that, I've had a couple people ask me, well, hey, don't you wish so-and-so would get fired? No, I don't. I don't like them. And I would help them if it came to it, and I wouldn't like it, but I would help them if it came to it, just because I think that's what God wants us to do. And so it's helped me in that way to be more compassionate towards people. That's what I try. In terms of our marriage, I think that while I don't know that we passed the test initially, when we got punched in the gut and kicked to the ground and we fell to our knees, I don't think at the very beginning that we passed it as a couple. But I think once we kind of figured out, we need each other and it's not your fault and it's not my fault. We're in this situation. So what are we going to do to get out of it? I think that going through it once, we've been hit with some other challenges since then. And I think as we've been hit with the other challenges, none of them as grave as what we went through the first time. But as we come through challenges, I think we are much, much better as a couple in saying, okay, let's figure out what are we going to do with this? Yeah. Let's pray about this. Let's figure out a path. And so it's helped our communication and it's not perfect every day, but it's something that we are aware of. And, we have our fights and we have our disagreements. We'll go a day or 2 or 3 days where we maybe not speak to each other. I say that we speak to each other, but we speak to each other, we respect one another. We're not talking to each other. We're talking to a husband's supposed to tell his wife goodbye and a wife is supposed to say good morning to her husband.
There's a time that we wouldn't do that.
Yes.
Well, I know you mentioned last night when we talked a little bit that you went through a pretty rough time there and then it all kind of came to a head and y'all had a big blowout and a conversation on the couch that changed a lot of things for y'all.
Yeah, it's a tough situation that it's hard to be the husband, I really and truly see that and I believe that it's hard to be the husband because, you hold yourself to this high esteem and then so does your wife. And I was playing for a long time. I was just playing a blame game. I was I had thought to myself, you know, I've coached in college all this time by myself and I've never had any problems. And, you know, I just was blaming. I was just blaming him for, I mean, yeah, I was blaming him for what had happened. And I was blaming him for the way that I was feeling and the situation that we're in and the humility that I felt. And I think it was so easy for me to blame him at that point because there was nothing he could really do to help me. You know, it was something that I had to, for a lot of it, to get through on my own. And I would do very hurtful things to him intentionally. Mm-hmm. I knew him. I knew him like the back of my hand. I know him like the back of my hand. And I know exactly what picture to paint or what things to do that would hurt him to his core. And it's disappointing for me because I wanted to do that, you know, and now at this point in my life, I couldn't imagine wanting him to feel that no matter how I feel. And
well, when you are hurting like that and you do that first thing where I know you said you'd leave your ring, or when you do that first thing and that release you feel and that little bit of lift that you feel from hurting someone because you're hurting so badly, it's almost like you feed the beast.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not finding any other way out of this, like a drug or a drink or anything like that. And so your drug of choice was a blame game and a hurt.
Yeah, it was. It was a blame game. It was a hurt thing. That hurt thing, you know, it started out as me wanting to hurt him and me wanting him to feel bad. And then even after we talked about it, now that I'm thinking about it, it became some like patterns for me. Yeah. You know, like patterns that I didn't necessarily know because initially I had control over that, right? Like I knew if I did this, he would feel this way. But then it became like habits of staying out too late or drinking too much, and it put me in a couple of scary situations, and it was life-changing. It was. And I will tell you though, you know, if you truly, I truly believe, you know, most marriages outside of physical abuse or sexual abuse, or I believe you can really get through most things. It's not easy. I mean, we went through, probably 3 years of, it was rough. I mean, we had some good times, but it was so easy to slip back to the bad times.
Right.
You know?
Right.
We had some times that it was really, really rough. But I just, you know, if you truly want to stick with it and you truly want to make your marriage work, and if you're willing to put the work in and you're willing to keep God in the middle of it, you can make it happen.
You guys had a big fracture.
We did.
I know you mentioned that night on the couch is kind of the start of the recovery, and that you got out that you had a lot of resentment about everything that had happened. So spiritually, from that point forward, where does that fit in? And then probably a little bit too, you've talked about God and your spiritual journey through this, but kind of tell us where that point started and where it's taken you to where you are today.
Well, you know, that night was a rough night for us. But you know, it was the start of repairing the fracture, you know. It was the start of us moving in the right direction. But like I said, you know, that took a while. And two summers ago, Michael and I were asked to go through with our church, we went through Reengage. It's a marriage counseling series where it was us, our pastor from our church, and like 4 other couples. And the couples just range from, you know, high and low. And we were asked to be facilitators.
I love the laugh that she does after it. That's so good. That's so good.
Our pastor Steve said, I met Michael for lunch, and he said, "Hey, I want you guys to go through this program with us because I want to offer it to the church in the fall. And we want you guys to be facilitators of this." And Michael told me that, and I was like, "Okay." And I'm thinking in my head, this will be great. Michael can get fixed. We can fix
him in for an overhaul.
Right? Like, this is really going to be good for Kenya. Like,
he told me about the series, and I was like, Steve, thank God you called me because Kenya needs this. This will be great for Kenya.
Oh my God. Our pastor always says, I'm going to tell you this. Do not look over to your right after I say this sentence. Do not look. I want you looking straight ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So we went through Reengage that summer, and it was life changing for us. We had talked about things, and that was from way back that we had never talked about. We apologized for things that we had never apologized for.
My God.
We had admitted to the other person of ways that we had been hurt, that they had no idea of ways that
right.
And so I just don't believe that things happen on accident. I just don't believe that we're here in Corsicana. I just don't believe that God knocked the wind out of us just to do it. I believe that everything is done through the will of God. And I believe all of this stuff happened so that we would end up exactly where we are and exactly doing exactly what we do, because we then went through Reengage with some of our very best friends, and we sat there and we saw ourselves in them. And we were able to just really and truly just be there. And we could not have done that. We could not have helped them at all had God not put us in that situation the summer before. I mean, just craziness.
And going back, we've learned through all of this that when there is that void, you fill it in with whatever you need to fill it in with. And it sounds like you guys were leaving a lot of voids for each other. And we always just kind of fill it in with the worst. Yeah. And my girlfriend Summer, she always says, we're working to replace like those self-told stories with God truths. Mm-hmm. And so when we were talking to y'all last night and y'all told us about the big come to Jesus with each other, where the things that you were saying, Kenya, were not anything that Coach was expecting you to say. He had one story in his mind that was going on in your home. He had one translation and you had another. We've never related to another couple more than in the hour last night y'all were talking. The whole time we were like, preach. What? Yes. I mean, the whole time y'all were talking last night, that what happened in y'all's home is what happened in our home. Exactly. To a T. I'm going to start like talking for you. You guys go. Tell us how you felt like when that truth came out of your faces, instead of, and you say the Reengage and you're communicating. That's what I mean about our podcast is we're talking all the time, and there's no chance for the devil to come in and leave a void. We're constantly, God is pushing us and pressing us to fill it, fill the void with truth so that there aren't any voids. And you guys talk about finally filling the void with each of your truths and what that moment meant to y'all.
That moment in Hazlet, Texas, like I can still see it. Like, because I cringed for 2 days. Because at that point I was coaching at Navarro, and we lived in Hazlet, which on a smooth drive was an hour and 40 minutes. And if I hit any traffic going through downtown Fort Worth, it was 2 hours and 15 minutes. And for one of the few times in my career, I practiced on a Monday and got done with practice, and I told my sophomores, I'm not going to be at practice tomorrow. And they're like, what's wrong? And I was like, I tell you all the time that, like, you're going to take care of your family, then you're going to take care of your school, then we're going to take care of basketball, and we're going to go in that order. And
Right.
I said, and right now I have to take care of my family, so I cannot be here tomorrow. And, I drove up to Hazlitt. The one thing I will say is when we sat down and had that conversation, she said things to me that I did not know. I knew she was mad at me, but I didn't know the depths that she was mad at me. And I was mad at her. I was mad at myself. I was mad at her. But I will say this. I think what saved us was we could have very easily in that moment not fought for our marriage, but we let everything go that night. And I think we let everything go because we wanted to see, is there something here or not? And it would have been very easy for her to just keep it all in and basically say, screw it. I'm going to keep pissing him off until he leaves or until he finally fires back. And I was at a point where at some point I was going to, and so we literally, we put everything on the table in my mind as an attempt to see what do we have to do to salvage this.
Right.
We had never, before we got married, we talked and we said, listen, divorce is not an option.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have to find a way to make these things work. And that night was, I truly believe that no matter how much anger she had at me, no matter how much self-hate I had, and I blamed her because I didn't feel like she took any responsibility. And all my fault. And I'm already blaming myself. Now you're blaming, there was so many different things, but I think that at no point did either one of us say we're giving up.
Right. Well, if I know my best friend, we've only been best friends for 24 hours, but if I know her, she wasn't going anywhere. She was going to make your life a living hell to where you would be begging for a divorce.
Yes, and that is exactly what I was about to say. That's exactly what I was about to say. Never did I want to leave, and he's saying either we were going to figure out if anything was still there. I just wanted him to feel bad. I just wanted him to hurt. I wanted him to
You're
feel
like, oh, yeah, dying would be nice at this point. I'm not going to kill you. I wouldn't do something nice like that to you. Just wait till what this is.
I never, ever thought during any of that time about doing life without him.
And I didn't either. But I think it was both of us looking at the other one saying, are you going to give? Because again, it was who's in charge? I almost feel like, because I was like, she can keep throwing stuff at me and I'm not going anywhere. She's going to be the one that's going to have to say that I left him. And I think she was the same way. I think she was going to be
I honestly and truly never thought you were going to leave me. I really never thought that we were going to separate. I didn't think that it was going to break. I really and truly believed in the vows that we wrote ourselves. I really and truly believe in that. But I was just in a dark place, and I just needed to be, I don't know if I can cuss on here, but I needed to be a big girl.
You talk about not being ready to give him your truth. What was different about that moment? What allowed you to finally let it go?
He finally asked me. He never
Did
asked
you ask her, Coach? Do we need to pause the podcast for a minute?
No, not ask me, are you okay? Or he never said, all right, lay it out there. He just let me act out. He just.
For how long? How long are we talking?
6 months?
No.
Longer?
Yes.
Maybe a year.
Good gravy.
It was probably close to a year.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It was close to a year.
Now, part of it though is our house is in North Fort Worth. I'm working in Corsicana, so I'm driving down Monday mornings at 6 a.m. and I'm spending the night in my office. I'm coming back on Tuesdays. I'm driving back. I wasn't at the house every day.
We were just kind of passing each other through the night a lot of times.
So we didn't see each other every single day, which probably
would made it easier.
Made it easier and made it longer.
But I think that kind of identifies with the depth of my darkness at that point. And I don't think I have, again, I've said this, I've never been in that dark of a place. And it was because, a lot of it was just because I felt like I just let myself down. I let so many people down. I had so many former players that I just let down. And I felt like he was supposed to not let that happen. And that's so unfair. It was so unfair. But like in my deep, dark depression, I couldn't really, like, I was rationalizing all that.
Sure.
There's another thing that kind of came out of that whole situation during 2012 and 2013 when we get fired at Ole Miss and we're through these dark times. And you know how so in coaching, especially when we coached at Trinity Valley, we always had players. So every Division I of the country would call us because they needed players. And they weren't our players. You have all these people that are your friends, you know,
right?
And they call you, and you may talk to them once a year, and they call you. It's like, Mike, what's going on, man? How you doing? Well, number one, you're not my friend because you call me Mike, and nobody that really knows me calls me Mike. But anyway, I'll just overlook that.
It's actually Coach. Thank you, though.
Yes, but you know, we had all these people that were our friends.
Yeah, sure.
You know how, like, on Facebook, you have 500 friends, but you really talk to 4 people.
Right.
Well, we hit our lowest point, and we went from having hundreds of people that would call us, and we identified 2, 3, 4, 5 friends, like friends.
Right.
When it came down to the net cutting. Yep.
Yes. We identified our people. And I will say this, that I can't speak for Kenya, but that has continued for me. Like, my circle was always really, really small, and I talk to everybody now, and part of that is my job, and there's things I've got to do with my job, but there are a small number of people that I know I can count on, and I try very, very hard to make sure those people know that I appreciate them, and they know that I know they're my people, and they know I will run through walls for them. Because it's not for everybody.
Right.
I have to ask Kenya something real fast. Kenya, do you mind that Jay said the term nut cutting on your episode?
I didn't hear that.
It was completely appropriate, Jay. Completely appropriate.
Thank you, Coach.
He will want me. He will want me to title that.
Thank you, Coach Michael.
We see how this is going.
For sure.
Well, I mean, y'all been best friends for 24 hours. I mean,
yeah, that's right. Nut cutting and all. So my question to y'all is, I kind of do this every podcast, but you've been through a lot of ups and downs, a lot of tough times, and a lot of tough things. So what's one word, one thought for each of you that you would pass along to somebody that you realize or see now after all this is said and done?
One word.
He couldn't give that question to y'all last night, could he have?
Nope. One word, one thought.
It's already popped into your head. Just say it.
No, it hadn't.
One word.
I
need a repeat of the question.
Go ahead, babe.
So give me one word or one thought after all your ups and downs, all you've been through, something that you would tell somebody to help them.
Something you'd pass along.
If you have to think twice, don't do it.
I like that.
Yeah, you would like that. Yep. Oh, great. Now y'all are friends.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sitting here in my mind, and I'm.
And it can be a story, Coach. It's just anything
well, you said one word, Jay, and I'm trying to follow the rules.
He's a rule follower.
He's a rule follower now.
Who would have known? I mean, like in my head right now, I keep seeing faith, trust, and believe. And
I love it.
Yes, I love
See, it was there.
Gosh.
Yeah, so faith. To me, it's faith and trust and believe. It's your relationship. It's you can't give up. And I think the other thing, in terms of a phrase or a philosophy, this is something that I've told my teams forever and ever and ever, and I think it just applies to life. If being great were easy, everybody would be.
Right.
And life is not easy.
Just keeps coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I want to go back. I won't get through. I want to say, just so y'all know, I want to say 17 sentences. I won't get through one of them. But I do just want you guys to know that we've been with our listeners for 3 seasons. They've become our family and our community. We do a good bit of communicating with them. So I know that they will trust me. And I'm so glad that I got to say I'm just so glad that I got to say everything that I did about you before you started talking, because I don't agree with anything that you said about back then. And you changed my whole life. And gosh darn it. I would have done things so differently back then, and you've fallen on the sword about some things, and it's just not right for me to sit here and not come clean about you did so much for us, and I left you guys my sophomore year and quit and got homesick and went home to Baton Rouge, and I'm good. I'm good with Jay. I'm good with telling my children what happened. I can teach them about what I learned through all of it. But, and I think I've talked to the girls on the team that mattered to me most. But when it comes down to it, I just am so sorry to you. And, I know you said that you didn't cry till you were 34, so I have a really odd memory of me telling you I was going home and you crying on my shoulder and telling me that you just weren't ready. Queenie had just graduated, and you told me you were ready. You were ready for it. You knew that her senior year was over and she was going. But you just weren't ready for me to leave, and it was just so sudden, and you didn't know what you were going to do with it. And if I could do anything, I would go back and change that decision. And like I said, I'm good with anyone else. I don't care what anyone thinks about that. I don't care what my family thinks. I don't care if our listeners find out that I quit college basketball. I don't care if my children know, but when it comes down to it, I care what you think so much. And I just want to tell you that I don't remember you being like that whatsoever. You wouldn't mean this much to me if you didn't care about others, because I felt cared about so much. I felt like you cared about us so much. And I just don't want you to be so hard on yourself. Don't be so hard on my coach, because we all just cherished you. We all called you Dad, and you took care of us every day.
I love you, Jess. I love you.
I really am sorry.
There's no need. I will just say that I love you. And I hope you know that.
What little I know and the stories that I've been told, I definitely couldn't agree with what you were saying either. And I concur with Jess, even just being on here with you. I mean, a person can change a lot from things that happen, but ultimately their core is their core.
Yeah,
and
that's
I mean, it's there
that's
for sure.
who he's been forever. at all.
So you're calling me a liar.
So now,
He says I'm a liar. Isn't he charming?
well, so now that we're giggling a little bit, I'm going to do this final serious question.
Bub, you always know you can bring it back to silly. That's the
I know,
best
but
part.
this is a very serious question.
Oh dear Lord!
That I've waited. I wanted. Well, I knew someday I would meet him, and I was going to ask him this question. Coach, what is your thoughts on the no look pass?
Oh! This is
Coach,
like
I heard this
this
like
is like throwing fuel on the fire, babe.
I have heard this story.
Oh,
I
you
have
go
heard this
first.
brought up ever since day
I
one
cannot
of me
believe
meeting.
you. I'm yelling into the mic. I cannot believe you would do this to us.
I had to ask. It's the one thing that I know about him that I have heard more than anything.
Can I go first?
As long as I'm allowed to respond.
Oh gosh.
No, go ahead.
Take your time.
I was taught the no look pass since I was a toddler. I was very good at it. You be quiet. When I get to college, I would make the most mind blowing. Everyone in the gym, she do that? She look? No? What? Everyone. No one could believe how fantastic I was at the no look pass. When I would do it, he would stand me at half court and he would make the rest of the team run for my pass, for my no look pass.
I don't remember that.
Yes, you do.
I do not remember that. There's
Yes,
no
you
way
do.
I would make the entire team run for anything, Jess.
If we missed classes, the person that missed class would have to stand at half court while everyone else ran. If we overslept for running in the morning, when we finally got there, we had to stand at half court. We didn't run. The rest of the team ran.
Well, that doesn't sound fair.
Oh my
Oh my
god.
God. This is not closure. This is not called
Not
closure.
how this is supposed to end. I'm not a podcast expert like you guys, but Jay, that was a bad idea.
Jay, let me ask you this.
If I knew, if you had said, what's the one thing about Coach, I'd have been like, he does not like the no look pass. That's all I remember.
I can't believe
The problem, and I hope we're going to edit all this out, but the problem is Miss Norman was really good at the no-look pass 1 out of every 8 or 9 times.
I will edit that. Hey, do
The
you
problem is
mind
she
saying
remembered
the
the
number
one.
2?
No, she remembered the one. She would forget the other 7.
Could you just say the number 2 so I can edit that to say every 1 out of 2 times?
Say it. Say it.
1 out of 9.
Oh.
I was just a kid, Dad.
I was a kid too. I had black hair. I used to have black hair.
Best friend, I love you and your no look passes.
Thank you. I'm really good at them.
And
Still.
I think you are too.
Thanks, babe.
I would have caught him.
3 out of 4 people are on board with my no-look passes. Yeah.
Unfortunately, none of those 3 were your coach. So there's only one vote that counts.
I don't want to do this anymore. Can you close it?
It's been such a great night, and I don't. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot believe that you did that. I cannot. That's so freaking funny.
Jay, that
Don't you
is
love
awesome. Jay, that is awesome. Because the moment you said no look, you need to go back and watch the video because her face dropped.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
She had no clue. I even wrote it down here so I wouldn't forget it, and I wrote no and then put an eyeball on it with an eyebrow so she wouldn't know what I was talking about.
I won't even be able to sleep. I'm so riled up. Like I didn't tell you, but we have a regulation goal and a regulation half court outside. We're heading out there.
But there's nobody.
And it is 10:30 at night. I will wake my children up to act like I am throwing it to them, but I won't. And no one will see it coming.
Guys, thank y'all so much for joining us tonight and for your honesty and for telling your story, and for, we thank you for the people that you are today and what you've done for Jess, obviously, and for all the other kids that have come through, and for all things you continue to do, for sure.
Both of them.
Thank y'all for having us. This is about the kingdom, and we are not, we're not prideful about, we're past it, thankfully. And God we've grown, and God He's used this for our ministry. Our story has been helpful to a lot of people. And so that's just what we want to continue to do for Him. And we just thank y'all for, I feel like we're like celebrities on their podcast. We're not even farmers.
And this is season 3. So it's obviously got staying power.
It's stability. It's stable. Yeah. It's
staying power.
And you're going to have some new followers, because I have a couple of friends at work that I went in today and bragged. I was like, I got a podcast tonight. And they're like,
will they?
And they were like, what podcast? I said, one of my former players, her husband. I pulled up Facebook, got your link, and they have downloaded it. So you're going to have your viewership is going to go up.
Viewership.
Will they? Well, I have 2 things. First, you're more excited about being on our podcast than starring on the hit Netflix series Cheer. 2, will they be pro no look pass or anti no look pass?
I don't even know, girl.
Okay, so one of them thinks that you wear helmets in volleyball. Tells you how.
I don't even know.
We count that one out. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're not sports people at all.
Hey, seriously, I know y'all have a lot of corn to plant.
Yeah.
But you need to come down for cheer practice one day over spring break.
I would pass out, sis. I'd pass flat out.
Come on, you can do
Jess,
this.
what if I told you could sit right next to while Jay and I take pictures of you and Monica?
No, it won't. I would pass out.
No, it won't. No, you wouldn't. Come on.
Gabby is still here.
TT
is still here.
James is my favorite.
Yep. I go to practice every single day.
I go like 3 times a week.
Yeah, I wouldn't make it. Awesome. I would look like the biggest smiley double barrel grin idiot.
You should come.
You would have to medicate me with like the marijuana or something.
So seriously, so for you, all right, if you showed up sometime in the next 3 weeks, because they're going to leave somewhere around April 2nd or 3rd, the film crew. If you come sometime in the next 3 weeks, I can put you in the gym while the team is practicing. I can have you sit next to Monica, and while the Netflix people are filming, I can take a picture of the background. It's going to look like they're filming you on the show. How about that?
I just peed a little bit.
Well, you think about it, sis. You think about it.
You'll know him better soon, Kenya, but what?
Just laughing at you.
What I'm about to say?
Go ahead.
He's already figuring it out. He's probably texting Coach like by his thigh arrangement.
Let's do it. I believe it.
Okay. Well, we're rambling. Huh?
Okay, guys. Once again,
thank y'all.
Thank y'all for being on tonight. We really enjoyed it. It's great to get to know you.
Yes. What'd you say, Coach?
Absolutely awesome.
All right, babe. You got anything else?
I hate for it to be over, but we have to go to bed. You have to wake up at 4:30.
That's right.
Yep.
Well, as the song says, the road goes on forever and the party never ends.
I love you.
I love you too. We sure appreciate y'all listening today. If you'd like to follow us on social media, you can search for us, Moving On Podcast. That's 3 words. On Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We would love to hear from you. With ways you're figuring out how to drop the ropes in each of your own lives, and even ways that you're not. Hell, that's just as entertaining to us. See you in a couple of weeks.